$14 million Montecito mansion was supposed to be the fortress, the sanctuary, the place where secrets stayed buried forever. Instead, it has become ground zero for the one thing Meghan Markle never planned for: people who were inside finally talking. Because when the walls that were built to protect you start whispering back, control disappears. And according to insiders, Meghan didn't just hear about these leaks, she exploded. Furious, paranoid, scrambling to figure out who's talking, who's next, and how much damage is already done. And here's the twist that makes this whole thing radioactive. The people speaking now aren't tabloids. They aren't royal insiders. They're not palace sources. They're the ones who made that house run.
For their 2026, I might be asking more than I am answering.
No, that's fine. I can become Mystic Meg. Here we go. I've
Okay.
just got to get in tune with...
Meghan Markle's Archewell brand is said to be in jeopardy as it prepares to lose long-serving...
King Charles has sensationally evicted Harry and Meghan from Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, and reportedly...
The $14 million Montecito mansion just became ground zero for something Meghan Markle never saw coming. Former staff members are finally breaking their silence. And listen, what they're sharing isn't just gossip. We're talking specific, detailed accounts of what really happens behind those closed doors. That's the nightmare scenario. Because when former staff talk, they don't deal in vague impressions. They deal in details, daily routines, private moments, behavior when the cameras shut off. And according to multiple accounts, what happened inside that mansion contradicts everything the Sussex brand has been selling. The irony is brutal. The couple who fled the royal family screaming about privacy, the couple who demanded boundaries, the couple who built an entire empire on authenticity. Now, their own employees won't stop talking.
Organized their deal with Netflix in 2025. They are still in a partnership.
And the reason? Because there were so many of them. The walls that were supposed to protect their sanctuary, they're covered in cracks now. And through those cracks, the truth is pouring out. This wasn't normal turnover. This was a revolving door spinning so fast, it practically ripped itself off the hinges. Nannies, security, housekeepers, assistants, one after another, every single one walking out with memories of what happens when no one's filming. Because when you hire people into your home, they see everything. They're there when you're stressed, when you argue, when the public persona drops. And Montecito had dozens of witnesses. And they're carrying stories, memories, observations, details about what really happens when the cameras stop rolling. Some of those staff did something unusual. They documented everything, not to sell stories, not to leak, but to protect themselves, to keep records in case blame got shifted or disputes arose. Notes meant as...
We're gonna see more as ever and new ventures from Meghan. I feel like yes.
100%. She is going to continue
the safety net. Those notes are now something else entirely. Because when Meghan and Harry went public accusing royal staff of mistreatment, the hypocrisy snapped something inside the people who'd lived the California version of that story. How the people around them weren't supportive or kind. But then these same employees witnessed how Harry and Meghan treated their own staff here in California. That's when silence stopped feeling noble. That's when people started comparing public speeches to private behavior. And that's when a phrase began circulating among former employees, the two Meghans, Camera Meghan and Private Meghan. Camera Meghan is warm, empathetic, speaks about kindness, humanitarian values, respect, compassion. Private Meghan, according to those inside the house, is something else entirely. Thermostats that must be exact to the degree, rules that change without warning, food restrictions that shift week to week, spaces arranged down to the millimeter. And even when everything is done perfectly, it's still wrong.
They've spoken out after their charity, the Archewell Foundation, was declared delinquent in the US.
Because perfection was demanded but never defined. Former staff describe an environment where failure was inevitable, where goalposts moved constantly, where criticism was the only consistent feedback. And when things went wrong, the reactions were explosive. Minor scheduling issues, small misunderstandings, moments that took minutes to fix, triggering meltdowns that left staff shaken. One former employee described watching a young assistant reduced to tears, only for Meghan to turn around minutes later and record a message about kindness and respect. Let that sink in. One moment berating staff. The next, preaching compassion. That disconnect is what made people start talking. Harry didn't escape this either. In fact, staff say his transformation is one of the most disturbing parts of the story. The warm, joking prince who arrived in California hopeful and optimistic, gone. Now he's described as withdrawn, isolated, quiet, wandering the grounds alone with what one insider called a profoundly sad expression. And here's the detail that makes people uncomfortable. Harry rarely makes phone calls to his family without Meghan present. Staff noticed it. Calls interrupted. Conversations joined without invitation. Even when Meghan wasn't physically there, she somehow knew who was calling and what was being said. Harry sounded guarded, careful, like someone choosing every word because someone else would hear about it later. Staff watched him give up everything: family, country, military identity, and receive something very different in return: isolation, control, shrinking access to his old life. And behind the scenes at their foundation, Arkewell, chaos reigned. Endless meetings, constant rebrands, websites redesigned again and again, logos scrapped, mission statements rewritten endlessly while actual charitable work stalled. People burned out, projects died, effort was demanded, but credit flowed upward, failure rolled downhill. And as Hollywood deals collapsed, Spotify gone, Netflix strained, the pressure followed them home. Arguments, blame, finger pointing. Staff witnessed fights over money, over media failures, over whose fault it all was. Meghan blamed Harry's lack of star power, Harry blamed Meghan's refusal to take guidance, neither accepted responsibility, and now, according to people who were there every day, that pressure has cracked something much deeper: the marriage itself. Separate schedules, separate bedrooms, cold exchanges, a house that feels tense even when no one is arguing. This wasn't a fairy tale escape from royal life. It was a new palace with fewer rules and far less accountability. And the people who saw it from the inside are no longer protecting the illusion. The walls are cracked. And this story is only beginning. The thing about leaks is this: once they start, they don't slow down. They multiply. Because what began as staff quietly comparing notes has now turned into something much more dangerous: patterns. And when independent people who don't know each other start describing the same atmosphere, the same behavior, the same tension, that's no longer bitterness. That's corroboration. Former employees weren't the only ones affected. Contractors, consultants, business visitors, people who came into that Montecito mansion briefly and left with the same uneasy feeling. One contractor described the environment with a single phrase that keeps coming up again and again: walking on eggshells, never knowing which version of the household you'd encounter. Warm one moment, cold the next, no warning, no trigger. Just a sudden shift that could derail an entire day. The unpredictability was so intense that one renovation crew reportedly developed hand signals to warn each other when Meghan's mood appeared to be changing. Let that sink in. Grown professionals creating a silent alert system just to survive a workday inside a $14 million home. This wasn't about high standards anymore. It was about volatility. And the way staff say Meghan treated service workers, caterers, delivery people, maintenance crews directly contradicts the image she's built as a champion for dignity and respect. Accounts range from dismissive to openly hostile. One incident involving a catering employee at an event reportedly left witnesses stunned by how over the top the reaction was. That disconnect between public advocacy and private behavior is what shattered loyalty. And here's where things turn truly damaging, Hollywood noticed. According to insiders, several high-profile guests who visited the Montecito mansion never returned. Invitations declined, excuses made, word quietly spreading that dinner at the Sussex house was something to avoid. The energy felt off, the dynamics uncomfortable, the way staff were spoken to unsettling. In Hollywood, social capital is everything. And once people start avoiding your invitations, the isolation accelerates fast. Celebrity friendships cool. Calls go unanswered. Doors that once felt open suddenly close. That glamorous inner circle Harry and Meghan once hinted at, it's shrunk dramatically. And inside the house, the consequences are unavoidable. Staff say Harry and Meghan increasingly live separate lives under one roof. Meghan in Los Angeles, chasing meetings, networking, pushing her brand forward. Harry staying behind, alone with his thoughts and a shrinking list of people he can call freely. Separate schedules became normal. Separate bedrooms became noticeable. Conversations reduced to logistics. Employees described them less like a couple and more like roommates who tolerate each other. The tension was palpable, the kind you can feel when two people enter the same room and the air immediately changes. And when it comes to their children, insiders say the arguments cut deeper than anything else. Meghan, according to sources, sees visibility as value. Appearances, mentions, carefully controlled exposure, tools to maintain relevance. Harry, haunted by his own childhood, pushes back hard. He wants protection, distance, silence. Those disagreements weren't mild. One source described a fight over the children as the most intense argument they'd ever witnessed between any couple. Because that's not about careers, that's about values. And while this is happening, Harry is described as quietly grieving a life he gave up. Staff say he watches royal events on television with an expression that looks like mourning. Not anger, not bitterness, loss. The kind you feel when you realize too late what something truly cost you. He's reportedly floated the idea of spending more time in the UK. Not a full return, just a connection. A bridge back to something familiar. Every time Meghan shuts it down. No discussion, no compromise, a hard no. Staff have also noticed Meghan openly undermining Harry in front of employees, correcting him, dismissing his opinions, contradicting decisions he tried to make, slowly eroding his authority. One insider described it as watching someone being diminished through 1,000 small cuts. And when enough people see that, they start asking uncomfortable questions. Is Harry fully aware of how others now perceive this dynamic? Does he understand how dramatically his image has shifted among people who once admired him? Or is he as isolated from the truth as he appears to be from his former life? Because here's the brutal reality: staff see everything. They see the private moments no PR team can spin. They see how people behave when no one is watching. And when enough of them speak with similar details, similar timelines, similar emotional reactions, that narrative becomes extremely difficult to suppress. The Sussex brand was built on 4 pillars: authenticity, compassion, partnership, purpose. According to the people who lived inside the operation, every one of those pillars is cracking. And once the people who protected your privacy decide you don't deserve that protection anymore, control vanishes. The fortress has been breached from the inside. Whether every detail is true or not almost becomes irrelevant, because the weight of multiple first-hand witnesses telling the same story changes everything. The walls have cracks now. And through those cracks, the truth, whatever its final shape, is pouring out fast. The only real question left is this: are we watching the Sussex brand finally collapse under the weight of its own contradictions? Or is this just another storm they'll survive? Either way, one thing is certain: this story isn't over.